Do we have a solution to my problem? Okay, there we are. Navigating the storms of life. There was a group of people met together for a Bible study, and each of them was asked to respond by saying, what is your favorite Bible verse that you go to when you're having difficulties in life? And so these were some of the responses. One of them said, the Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. Yes, I know we've probably all gone to that Bible verse at some time or other, and it's a good verse. God is my refuge and strength, a very present help in time of trouble. That's another good one, right, when we're having problems and trials. Of course, Jesus said, in this world you will have tribulation, but be of good cheer. I've overcome the world. And a number of different people were going through their favorite verses, and then an elderly gentleman, he was about 80 years old, a little bit frail, stood up, and he said, and it came to pass. And folks in the congregation thought he'd lost his mind. But then he went on to explain, and he said, when I was 30 years old, I lost my job, and there were 6 hungry mouths to feed. At 40, my oldest boy was killed overseas during the war. 50 years of age, my house burned down. 60 years old, my wife of 40 years got cancer. At 65, my wife died. And then he said, each time I saw one of the verses that said, and it came to pass, I knew that God would see me through. It came to pass that God would help. Why does life have to be so hard? Why can't it just be easy? James, consider it a sheer gift. The NIV says, count it pure joy. Now, I don't know about you, but I'm struggling a little bit with that pure joy part when I go through difficult times. When tests and challenges come to you on all sides. But we've got to look close at that verse. You know that under pressure, your faithfulness is forced out into the open and shows its true colors. So don't try to get out of anything prematurely. Let it do its work so you become mature and well-developed, not deficient in any way. So this morning, for a few moments, let's see if we can put our problems together in a proper perspective. I've got a few points I want to share with you on that. First one, everyone has problems. True or false? Anybody here have no problems? I didn't think so. We all have problems of some kind or other. I know lots of times when life is really difficult, we say, oh, poor me, I'm having such a hard time. Why does it have to be me again this time? But no, we all have problems. Doesn't matter whether we're young or old or whatever, we have problems. Working people have problems. Some here might have a job they don't like. Some wish they had a job. Some are saying, I've got 2 more years to go or 3 more years to go before I retire. You say, I'll have no problems. I can speak to that one. Retirement does not mean you're not going to have problems. You will. Some people want to go back to work. I know some pastors that will probably die within 6 months of quitting pastoring because that's all they've known. They have no hobbies, no other activities in their life. Some people, that's what happened to them. They get depressed. They just can't carry on. There was a young couple that started their own little business. And after a while, it got going really well. And as time went on, it got better and better and better. And they made more money. They expanded. They started off with a tiny little house, built a bigger house, then a bigger house, then a bigger house. They filled that house full of servants. And then one day they stopped and they looked at each other and they said, we're not happy. We got a problem. So they sold that great big house. They laid off all the staff. Now they could have a place where they wouldn't have to have people looking at them all of the time. They wouldn't lose their privacy. They did their own cooking. They did their own cleaning. Yes, everyone has problems. A problem-free life is an illusion. It's a dream that does not exist. Now, you might have that dream, but it's not a real dream. Even Jesus had problems. Nobody would listen to him. The ones that didn't understand what he was saying. Everyone wanted a handout. Oh, Lord, I'm hungry today. Lord, I need this. Lord, I need that. Everyone wants to be healed. Here's my son. Here's my daughter. Here's my aunt. Here's my mom. Heal me. Fix me up. Get rid of the spirit. Evil spirit, that is. Religious leaders hated them. You imagine going to church and everybody up on the platform doesn't like you. His family didn't understand him. They struggled with him. Last 3 years of his life, he didn't have a job. Everyone has problems. Get over it. We do. We do. If I were to paraphrase what James is saying, I would start this one off by saying, count it all joy when you fall into various trials because everyone has them. Can we live with that one? Second thing, every problem has a limited time span. I know a young family. I knew a young family once. I might have shown you this picture already. You know the story about Joseph and the 7 years, right? And he said there would be 7 good years followed by 7 bad years. Well, we started off with 7 bad years. 7 bad years. Let me give you a quick rehearsal. My wife and I were married after I finished my 2nd year of university. By the time we got to the 3rd year of university, we had our first baby on the way. My wife, of course, had to quit her job. So we were losing money right off the bat. I worked in construction for a while, for several years. Our company used to be quite large. Sometimes we have as many as 20 or 25 30 people working. Right at the very end, I had 2 bosses and myself. That's all that was left of the company. And they could only keep me working 2, maybe 3 days a week, which wasn't enough to take care of our needs. So that finished. About that time, we also joined the church, so I went into a call porter work for a year and a half. And then we really starved. That was really, really hard. It was just going downhill. 3 children now, by the way. Our rent was subsidized at $26 a month. We were so poor. Now, I'm talking a few years ago, in fairness, okay? That's a few years ago. But still. Then I decided to go back to school. So we went to CUC, and that was probably the bottom of our 7-year cycle. It was really, really bad. But somehow we made it through, went to Andrews, sold all of our furniture. I'll show you a slide in just a second. But you know what? By the time we sort of got to the end of that 7 years and I finished Andrews, I'd saved enough money for new furniture. We had a car that was only 2 years old, and I only owed $1,200 in student debt. Don't ask me how that happened, other than that's the Lord's blessing. The day we moved from CUC to Andrews, the very day that happened to us. A young driver, slick roads, rainy day, ran right. We had everything stored right there. It was all stored right there at that place. Just about gave my wife a heart attack. But, yeah, time span, limited time span. Here's a copy of my first paycheck as a pastor. I don't know how well you can read that. My salary was $548 a month. A month. Oh, there was a cost of living thing there too, and a few other things, some travel. But yeah, and we thought we were rich. we were actually doing quite well at that point in time. Had a steady job, steady paycheck, even though it only came once a month. We were on our way out of that 7-year cycle. Yes, count it all joy, because our problems will only last for a little while. You guys have been going through diapers, 6 months? About 2 more years. It'll pass. It'll pass. Every problem has a time span. They only last a short time. You can't calm the storm, so stop trying. What you can do is calm yourself. The storm will pass. Okay, number 3. Oh, well, I guess I did that already. Count it all joy. Trials will only last a short time. Now, short, maybe we need to put that in quotation marks, but yes, short time. Every problem holds positive possibilities. In other words, something good is going to come out of our problems. Every affliction has some kind of hidden potential. One person's problems will allow another person to establish a business. We've got a hospital right next door, right? Why do people go there? Because they got problems, right? They need help. But what does that do? It provides employment. Some of you may work there. Nurses, doctors, staff of all different kinds, maintenance people, you name it. Way more people work there solving people's problems or helping them solve the problems than the ones who actually have the problem. So every problem has some kind of a positive element to it. We know that rats and mice are a real plague to humanity. But some people make a business out of taking care of those little critters. So there's always a positive possibility in the midst of our problems. A couple of texts. Psalm 119, the suffering you sent was good for me. Yeah. But it taught me to pay attention to your principles. Another one, Luke, this is in the context of the crooked manager, the guy who went and, well, you know the story. Jesus said, I want you to be smart in the same way, but for what is right, using every adversity to stimulate you to creative survival so that you'll really live, and not complacently, just get by on good behavior. So, again, Jesus is saying the same thing. Use your problems for something good. So, we can say on that one, be joyful because you will learn something when you go through your time of trial. Number 4, every problem will change you. Every problem will change you. Changed Jacob, didn't it? Patriarch Jacob, changed him. Changed Joseph. Can you imagine going from the very bottom step of the ladder, a slave and in jail one day, and the next day you're the prime minister of the strongest country in the world? It changed him. Changed Paul. When he was Saul, he was busy throwing Christians in jail. Then he had a problem. Got blind. That problem helped him to see. And it changed him. Young man went back to the place of his birth. And as he was walking around the farmyard, he came across a persimmon tree. I've never seen one. I'm not even sure I've ever eaten one. But anyway, he came across that tree and he remembered that his dad planted it, and the tree was full of fruit. So he grabbed one and it tasted really good, and just eating that brought back all kinds of memories. You know what it's like when you hear something, sometimes you smell something, it brings back a memory. And this flooded his mind with all kinds of good memories. But all of a sudden that started to taste a little bit sour in the belly. It was bitter. And he tried another one, and the same thing happened, and another, and the same thing happened. And then he remembered, it hasn't been cold yet. We haven't had frost. Persimmons need frost to take away the bitterness. Get the point? Sometimes that needs to happen in our life. Frost and cold can destroy some fruit, but in others, it brings about sweetness, something good. Difficulties sometimes can make us bitter. Other times, it can make us sweet if we let it. Count it all joy because you can be changed into a better person. Number 5, you can choose what your problem will do to you. This is the one I like. Here's a sentence. Think about it. Life is a school, and problems are the curriculum. It's a good one, isn't it? I didn't make that up. I wish I had. But it's a good one. Oh, I even had it on the screen. Ever heard of this guy? Yeah? Oh, some of you have. That's good. I have a problem with him. I can't pronounce his name. It's Nick Vujicic. But we'll just call him Nick. Can you imagine getting through your busy day without any hands or arms or legs? Can you even imagine that? I can't. You can't care for your basic needs. That's the way he was born. I'm sure it was unbelievably difficult at first for him. He went through periods of loneliness, depression, and he wondered, why am I different than everyone else? And he questioned the purpose of life. He said, we have absolutely no control over what happens to us, but we can control how we respond. If we choose the right attitude, we can rise above whatever challenges we face. He credits his survival because of his faith in God. And friends and family began to encourage him, and he started speaking to people groups, to people, when he was 19 years of age. Now, I don't know about you, but I'd listen to somebody like that was talking to me. I really would listen, and they did. And he's traveled the world. He's spoken to millions and millions of people. He's filled up stadiums of people coming to hear this motivational speaker. You know, this dynamic young man has accomplished more in his life than most people have ever even thought of doing. He gradually figured out how to get along and get through life without arms and feet. Well, he's got one little foot there, but just a few of the things. He writes with those 2 toes on his left foot. He has a special grip that slips over it, and he knows how to use a computer, and with the heel and toe method, he can type 45 words a minute. How many of you can type that fast with 2 hands and 10 fingers? He learned how to throw tennis balls, to play drum pedals. He can get a glass of water. He can comb his hair. He can brush his teeth. He can answer the phone. He can shave. He participates in golf, swimming. How many of you have 2 arms and 2 legs? No, don't put up your hands. And can't swim. He can swim. And he's even skydived. He's an author, a musician, an actor. His hobbies include fishing, painting. Well, I read that already. And he said, if God can use a man without arms and legs to be his hands and feet, then he certainly will use any willing spirit. You can Google him. Maybe you have. Google that guy's name sometime, and there are some motivational videos. They're worth looking at. He's married. He has a family. He said, I have a choice to be angry at God for what I don't have, or to be thankful for what I do have. Count it all joy because you can choose how to respond. I love that quote. Problems are like washing machines. They twist us, they spin us, and knock us around, but in the end, we come out cleaner and brighter than ever before. Isn't that good? Well, here's another one. There's a negative and a positive reaction to every problem. Daughter was complaining to her dad about life one day, how everything was so hard, and she was ready to give up. She was tired of fighting, she was tired of struggling, and it seemed like she'd solve one problem and another one would come along its way. Her dad was the chef. So he took 3 pots and he filled them with water and put them on the stove. He put eggs in one, carrots in the other, and coffee beans in the 3rd pot. And he turned on the stove and let them cook for 20 minutes. Then he asked his girl, "What do you see?" She said, "Well, what's all this supposed to mean?" And he explained to her, each one of these faced adversity. The same thing, hot, boiling water. The carrots came out soft and weak. The fragile eggs became hard inside. But the coffee beans changed the water. So are we like the carrots when troubles come our way? We get limp and soft and we just give up, lose our strength? Or are we like the egg that began with a pliable, soft heart and then it becomes hard when problems come our way? After a death or divorce, layoff, do we become hard-hearted? Or are we like the coffee beans and we change the water that's bringing the pain? The hotter the water, the better the coffee, or calf lib, or decaf, or whatever you wish. When you have many kinds of troubles, you should be full of joy because you know that this will give you patience. So let's review. Count it all joy when you run into problems because everyone has them. Now, I don't know that that makes us feel any better, but that's the reality of life. Count it all joy because our trials only usually last a short time. Be joyful because you will learn something. Be happy because you can be changed into a better person. Count it all joy because you can choose how to respond. And rejoice in that you will come through your trials perfect and complete. Jesus said, and this is a promise as well, in this world you will have trouble, but take heart, I have overcome the world. And if he's overcome, he'll help us overcome. Let's pray. Father, it's so good to know that you've experienced everything that we will ever experience and probably much more. There are things we can't even comprehend that you had to deal with that were so difficult, seemingly had no answer. But Father, you've endured all of these heartaches and these trials and these problems just to reassure us that if we hold tight onto your hand, you will carry us through. You will help us to walk through all of the shadows that we face in this life. And Father, help us to hang on to you tight. May you bring us to that heavenly land where our problems and our trials will be but distant memories. Thank you, Father, for being with us in our time of difficulty. In Jesus' name we pray.